that the discos say they don't have, but they're not being utilized at the moment.
Well, I don't, I really don't know how that's working out, but what will always be a problem with the meters is to make sure that the specifications you have will do the job. So where there are differences, then you can go to a regulator to resolve it. I don't think the discos are turning their backs completely on these local manufacturers. But whether the local manufacturers themselves, because they import as well. It's not as if everything is done here, they import as well. You want to be sure that those meters work. What many discos met were inefficient meters, meters that were running but not recording, meters were overreading.
Were those ones looking to manufacture and brought in?
We don't know. This is what we met on ground. So whatever metering plan was on ground created this sort of situation.
Electricity theft is something that no business would want to see and no nation would want to see. But looking at having meters in all homes or places of business is another important aspect that we must also look at. I go back to the issue of metering now, because for those who haven't been that lucky to have meters in their homes, how do they read the meters? Should I call it analog? The old meters?
Yeah, that's what I'm telling you. It's a very rigorous process. Right now you have so many men in the field. If you are lucky, you meet responsible citizens or not very angry citizens, they let you come and read the meters. But if you meet citizens who feel it is their right to consume and not pay, they turn hostile. And that's why we have several of our men out there who get basically violated because they want to do their legitimate work. So educating the consumer about being a responsible consumer is just as important as it is to getting discos to be alive to their responsibility. However, having said all that I said, modern day electricity consumption is moving towards the area where you can actually do most of these things remotely. And that's what we want to do, like you do with your telephone. The technology is available. Once we meter you, we don't even need to come on site to read the meters. We can read it from a remote location, and we can actually disconnect.
And you get it accurate.
Just like you once you run out of credit, your phone goes off.
Because
whom do you call? You just go and buy new credit.
It's very important that that is done, as well as putting meters in every home. I'll tell you this, and now you're here seated, and we're all here, we're working. But what do you find? They go to your homes when you're at work.
Yeah.
So they don't even have access to your house. And by the time you come, the wires are off your homes. So the logic, there's no logic there, because you don't expect the man who to sit and wait for you to come read the meters. So if you think that there's a possibility of having a device or an equipment that can remotely read the meters and even disconnect you if you are not well up to date, then why is it that we haven't actually seen that?
No, that will come. Like I said, with the new discos taking over, with improvements in the electricity market globally, that's where we're all headed. So the phenomenon you just described will be a thing of the past in the very near future. So that way it reduces areas of friction. What you just said is so true. People work very hard, they leave home very early, come back very late. And so it may not be their fault that their meters are not being read, and then they suddenly find that they've been disconnected. And that can cause anger. So we are working. No, that's not why. The ones those who beat them up are just bad citizens.
But what about those who have, first of all, they paid for their meters?
Sure.
And they've not seen them. Some pay between 25,000 and 40,000.
Some places for 2 years now.
Some places for 2 years, and they've not seen their
Again,
meter.
I can speak for only a co-distribution.
Oh, those, particularly the one I'm talking about is a case that has to do with a co-distribution.
Yeah, as many of those cases as we know exist, we're dealing with. Remember,
do you still bill those people?
I wouldn't really know if those ones are, maybe they're still on the estimated billing channel, I don't know. But what I am assuring everyone here is that once you have a complaint, we now have a customer-friendly, customer-active lines where you can complain. Remember in the past, because it was a government monopoly, you couldn't really call anybody or report anybody. In fact, you were reporting themselves to themselves. But now there are
in this case,
there are
is it not the
myriads of
same
people.
thing? Because the numbers that are on the bills happens to be the numbers of the marketers. So if they are very harsh to you, that's who you're stuck with.
No. I mean, EcoDisco has a customer.
This is
So
EcoDisco.
different from
That's what I
market.
can speak for EcoDisco, but I'm sure it's pretty much replicated with all the other discos. In other words, there's been a movement forward. That's the point I'm making.
Okay. Now, talking about, you brought up the estimated billing, especially for those that are not properly metered yet. Why is it that some people get to pay as much as 50,000 naira for a residential area for a month? Is that part of the estimated billing?
The technical people will explain to you. But yes, perhaps you consume that much. You don't know. You know, consumption habits. Again, that's another thing Nigerians should understand.
Mr. Tommy,
you know, hold on,
if I may interrupt you here. I mean, you may not be a technical person, but I'm sure you do have an idea. Someone living in a three-bedroom flat, and he doesn't run an industry in there. It's just a residential
Do I
home.
know that person?
I don't know if you know the person, but someone just sent in a complaint. Three-bedroom flat has to pay almost 50,000. Some months 25, but on the average 35,000 naira.
Well, I don't know about that particular case. Each case differs from the other. It's important to find out what's happening in his own particular case. You know, there is awkward cases where your meter is probably tied to somebody else's consumption. Nobody knows. We met a lot of things. Within the same block of flats. Some people are paying
I think
well below market
I
price.
that.
Some are paying, even for us, it's a
So how do you get
shock.
that sorted out? Because I had that issue. It was discovered after I separated mine, and I realized that the pumping machine in that apartment
was tied to your meter.
was tied to my
Exactly.
meter. That was way back, so I was all flustered. So how do you, if you stay in a neighborhood and you just realize that maybe your landlord or your landlady is always smiling, nothing comes to